Okay, good morning everybody. We'll make a start. I think we were expecting Councillor House, but he might have got held up with the trains, no doubt, so we'll see if he manages to turn up. So welcome everybody. A few things, we are recording now, just so you're aware. So thank you for attending this meeting of Cabinet. Whilst this meeting is open to the public, it is being recorded and broadcast live on the County Council's website and will be available for repeat viewing. It may also be recorded and filmed by the press and public. Filming or recording is only permitted in this room whilst the meeting is taking place, so must stop when the meeting is either adjourned or closed. Filming is not permitted elsewhere in the building at any time. Okay, we'll go straight on then, so apologies for absence. I don't believe we have any apologies for absence. No, okay, great, thanks very much. We go through the declarations of interest. Do I need to read that out fully or not? No. So does anybody have any declarations of interest in terms of the papers in front of them today? Can't see any. Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting. Everybody's been through the minutes. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes of the previous meeting? Otherwise, we take those as being agreed and accepted. A few nods, so we'll take that as such in. Thank you very much. Just a couple of chairman's announcements from ourselves. First one is in terms of the Jubilee Honours. So I would like to extend my warmest congratulations to Emma Noyce, Hampshire's Assistant Director for Culture and Information Services, on receiving the British Empire Medal in the Queen's Jubilee Honours. So well done and absolutely fantastic. I'll make a minute, Russell. Russell, just 2 seconds, I'll come back to you. So this is richly deserved award, both for Emma herself and for Hampshire's library services. During the COVID-19 lockdowns, Emma and her team went above and beyond to ensure that residents in Hampshire could continue to access books, magazines and other popular library services. Hampshire's libraries are now hosting Ukraine Connections groups to help refugees and their sponsors meet for a friendly chat and find out local services. So I'm very pleased that Emma's outstanding public service has been recognised by the Queen's Jubilee Honours. Councillor Oppenheimer, you wanted to make a brief comment?
Yeah, just to echo that, I think it is a very well-deserved award. Emma showed great leadership and innovation during the pandemic to find solutions that worked for communities. And I'm just delighted that she's been honoured with this medal. And I do think, as you say, Leader, that the entire staff of the library service deserve huge credit, not just for the pandemic, but also for the Ukraine support and for supporting people during this cost of living crisis in all sorts of innovative ways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will just add, when I first spoke to Emma, she was the first one to say straight away, this wasn't just for her, you know, it was for the whole team as well. So typically in her nature as well. So yeah, so excellent for her. Also, in terms of just the Armed Forces Week and the Falklands anniversary, as colleagues will be aware, this week is Armed Forces Week. And I had the honour of attending a special flag-raising ceremony at the Great Hall in Winchester yesterday to mark the start of the Armed Forces Week and demonstrate our support and immense gratitude to all members of our Armed Forces community in Hampshire. 1 week ago today, on the 14th of June, was the 40th anniversary of the end of the Falklands conflict. And I took part in an event last week to pay tribute to the 255 British servicemen and 3 Falkland Islanders who lost their lives, as well as those who served in the Falklands campaign. Their bravery and sacrifice will never be forgotten. And I would just like to mention the work and the amount of, not effort I suppose, but the commitment that Councillor Andrew Joy, who leads on that, put into helping organise that event. And also for yesterday for Councillor Bill Withers, who helped organise a fantastic event yesterday with the flag-raising ceremony. So thank you to Andrew and to Bill, who is here today. So thank you very much for that. I have no deputations as far as we're aware. Right, no, thank you very much. So we'll go straight into agenda item 6, working towards economic recovery. Now, as I say, we did have Councillor House down to speak, but clearly he's not here. I don't know if we've had any note, Marie, from if he's en route or anything from anybody. If not, well, what we'll do is I'll ask the Chief Executive to present the report, and if he does come in after that, he clearly would be allowed to speak then. So, Chief Executive.
Leader, colleagues, thank you very much. This report is your regular update focusing upon working towards economic recovery. The bulk of the report, plus Annexes 1 and 2, provide a comprehensive update on the current economic challenges and our response to those challenges across Pan Hampshire. The report then moves on to provide an update on one of those responses, which relates to the development of a county deal prospectus for Pan Hampshire, which aims to get us to a point of negotiation with central government on the devolution of centrally controlled powers to a local level, and we expect to be in a position of presenting that prospectus to Cabinet in July. And the report then moves on to recommend standing down the Local Outbreak Engagement Board, with the responsibilities being returned to Cabinet. So this was a board that was created specifically to deal with the challenges of the COVID outbreak. It has been very successful in providing that engagement across our Hampshire geography, but now it can return those responsibilities back to Cabinet. Although also created at that point in time was a Health Protection Board, which is an officer forum, and it will continue to meet on probably around a quarterly basis to focus across public health, communicable diseases and contagion outbreaks. So beyond just COVID, it was felt that having this officer group had added value and would add value into the future. And finally, the report simply confirms the new membership of the Cabinet Subcommittee on Economic Growth and Recovery as a direct consequence of the changes of leadership and the changes across Cabinet. And at the end of the report, there are updates particular to adults' health and care and also schools and children's services. The recommendations are on page 33, and Leader, that was all I wanted to say, unless there are any questions or comments. Thank you.
Caroline, thank you very much. Caroline, thank you very much. And part of my note was to read out, can you all make sure your phones were off? Not only did I clearly failed to read that out, I clearly failed to check that my phone was off, so apologies about that. So I'm going to go to members first, if anybody has any comments on the paper. I think Councillor Ferris, you want to perhaps comment on the outbreak board.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I totally agree it should be stood down, but I think it's something that could be resurrected very quickly as and when needed in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if any members have any other comments on it. So really it's just to thank certainly all the officer team and all the work that has gone on, especially recently through the COVID period, and I would like to thank Chief Executive pass on to all the staff and all the work that has gone on, continued to go on, not only through dealing with COVID, but obviously dealing with all the business as usual as well. I'll just make a brief comment on the county deal in terms of, we met previously with the district leaders a little while ago, and Councillor Edward Heron was there, having a discussion about potentially at the time bringing the full prospectus to this Cabinet meeting. With conversations with them, they requested a bit more time to maybe consider the report. So we certainly agreed to do that, and we're taking it back to the July Cabinet meeting. So I think that was welcomed by all the leaders as well. I would say I think it does leave us in a very good position, and I have to say thank you to Councillor Manns, the previous leader, for getting us to this point where we have a prospectus on the table that if that opportunity arises for us to take forward, we can go have that conversation with government. And then we've got to remember this is a prospectus, not a deal. The deal has been negotiated if we get to that point. So, and again, thanks to all the officer team and all that work that they've done. Does any member have any other further comments on the paper at this stage? Okay, all right, there are no further comments. I'm happy to take through or are you happy to take through the recommendations as set out in the papers? Lots of agreement. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Chief Executive. We'll now go on to agenda item 7, Health and Social Care System Resilience Report, and I think, Graham, you're going to be presenting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Good morning, everyone. So I'll be relatively brief in terms of some comments to introduce the report, and I'll pick out one or two particular aspects within the report itself, if that's okay. So the report sets out our actions and activities over the course of the last financial year in supporting our residents to be discharged from acute hospital settings. You will see within the report strong performance across the board in terms of our support to residents. The report also identifies the ways in which avoidance of admission have been and continue to be provided through care at home and other services. It should also be noted that the average length of stay for people in our acute hospitals has reduced markedly over the period, and that's partly as a consequence of services that we've put in place. But a consequence of that means that people are leaving acute hospitals with higher levels of need. Their needs are more complex, and therefore the support that we are providing them, hopefully to regain their independence, is markedly more than previously. Paragraph 24 of the report provides detail on our discharge to assess services, particularly pointing out in that paragraph the Clarence Unit, which is a facility that we run through HCC Care to support people being primarily discharged from Portsmouth hospitals. The unit have supported more than 1,500 people since it was first created 2 years ago, and it's its anniversary this month in June. And what we've seen is incredible levels of both activity but also the outcomes. So some 85% of people going through that discharge to assess facility are then returning home to their primary home, whether that be their own home or indeed a care home setting that's able to continue to support them to live as independently as possible. I'd also like to specifically mention the manager of the unit, Stacey Breakwell, and her team, who've recently been shortlisted for a Local Government Chronicle Award, and that's in Large Team of the Year. So we're hoping in July we'll know the outcome of that nomination, and we're keeping our fingers and everything else crossed for that. However, it would be wrong for me to not also mention our excellent teams at Forest Court and Willow Court, who also provide similar services for residents in the west and north of the county. Paragraph 27 details the work of our reablement team, which have seen a further increase and effectively a step change in the volume of activity and referrals managed by that service. Almost 26,000 people supported in the last financial year through our reablement activities, some 60% of whom are people being kept safely and appropriately in the community. So rather than risk a hospital admission, our services are able to become involved in 60% of those cases and keep people living independently at home with some support. The remaining activity is for people being supported once they've been discharged from an acute hospital setting. All of our services, from our hospital discharge teams through to our community equipment services, all of which are detailed in the report, continue to provide, I would suggest, exemplary levels of support and continue to do so at great pace and under huge operational pressures. Looking forward, our services remain busier than ever. Demand for services through acute hospital emergency departments and also as a consequence of the elective programme catch-up are leading to increased activity across the board. We're now in summertime, but we're busier in summertime this year and indeed last year than we have been traditionally through the peaks of winter pressures. So we have seen through the course of the pandemic a really marked step change in levels of activity year round, and summertime is the new winter, if you take my meaning, and we've seen no let up through the activity over the course of the last 2 years. To this end, the report sets out clearly the consequence of failing to maintain the NHS financial support for the services that have been put in place over the course of the last 2 years. Their continuation is reliant upon NHS funding and hopefully on a recurrent revenue basis. This remains subject to ongoing discussion with NHS partners and the ICS executive. But you will also see within the recommendations of the report, it also requires an agreement, hopefully at a national level, from NHS England and indeed the Department of Health and Social Care to support continuation of the services that we provide to support people from acute hospital discharge. Thank you. I'll stop there.
Graham, thank you very much. And I think it's interesting is that you make the comment about summertime and wintertime, and clearly demonstrates the pressures on the services if that is the case and the increased demand that there is at the moment. So thank you. Councillor Fairhurst.
Yes, I'd really just like to echo a lot of what Graham has said. But one thing I'd like to point out is that it is the Department of Health and Social Care, but social care seems to come at the bottom of the queue. And perhaps just slightly ahead of us is community services. And actually, if community services and social care were able to work together with increased funding, we'd see less of our older residents having to go into hospital in the first place because they could be looked after at home. And that would ease the pressure on the hospitals. The other thing is we take about 400 people a week out of the acute hospitals in Hampshire, and they go through rehab, they then go on to a nursing home, a residential home, or to their own home with care and support. But that care and support carries on for the next 5, 6, 7 years. It's not a short-term thing. They come onto our books, if you like, for want of a better word, and we have to supply social care to them for an unlimited period of time. And yet, of those, discharges for hospitals only account for 15% of the work we do in the community, which just shows you where the vast volume of our work is. But actually, we're still doing everything we can to help the acutes, but we do need extra funding to maintain that momentum. I'm really worried about what's going to happen this winter. If the pressures we're under now, if that gets worse, if we have a flu epidemic or that, the system is going to be under a real strain this winter, and it's not something I want to see. Thank you.
Liz, thank you very much, and you make some really good points, and we've had a previous discussion in terms of the work that we do at the County Council, and indeed the actual savings there are directly to the NHS, but of course we clearly don't see that, do we? Just Graham, I just wonder if I may go back to some of the points that Liz makes in terms, would some of that be the issues that potentially could be raised through the new Integrated Care Board?
That would certainly be, I think, the intention. I would say that conversations locally with partners, both NHS provider partners, particularly the acute trusts and the community provider Southern Health, are really positive. The reality is that the hospital discharge funding that was made available by government over the course of the last 2 financial years as a result of the pandemic, that is no longer available to us. So in terms of the services that we have in place, they're based on the fact that recurrent spend needs to be eked out of the existing NHS budgets, the ICS budget as we go forward, and indeed the provider budgets as well. So it creates something of a local tension. Relationships are really, really positive, conversations are taking place, but ultimately it's the fact that that national funding is no longer available specifically for hospital discharge activity.
Okay, thank you for that, Graham. And it's something that Councillor Fairhurst is that we might be able to pick up on well with further discussions. As you quite rightly say, being concerned about what the pressures will be as we go into the winter months as well, and those increased demands. Graham, can I also ask you to take back all the people that you mentioned and the teams to thank them personally from myself and from the Cabinet as well about all the good work we've done. And that's what I was saying earlier about, you know, everybody's busy, but the increased pressures and demands, and still all the business as usual has gone on top of that as well. So thank you to you and your team. Does any other Cabinet member have any further comments? Councillor Warwick, Jan.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Graham and Liz for an excellent paper. And ever since the NHS existed, when anyone comes into hospital, the first thing they want to do is get home. And the delays in discharge, there's never been an easy answer to that. It's either the transport's not there, or the medicines are not ready, or the social care package is not in place. And of those 400 per week, many of those will be readmissions for social issues. So I can't state how important this paper is, and we should be singing this from the rooftops, because actually this would be a significant solution to many of the issues and problems in the NHS. So well done you, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Really important message there as well about the importance of the messaging that we get out as well. So I'm sure, Liz, Councillor Ferris, that we will maybe have a discussion about how we do that via your team as well. Okay. No other further comments from members? Okay. So are we happy to agree the recommendations as set out in the paper then, please? Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so we now go on to, thank you, Graham. Go on to agenda item 8, Hampshire's Minerals and Waste Plan Development Scheme. and Stuart Jarvis are going to present the paper. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good morning, members. I hope this is a relatively straightforward paper. The purpose of the report is to seek Cabinet's endorsement for a revised programme for preparing an update to the Minerals and Waste Plan. The Cabinet had previously, or the County Council rather, previously approved the principle of updating the plan and agreed a programme. That programme's been delayed, I think probably for fairly good reasons, in the sense that national legislation around waste and environment has been delayed, and it's obviously important that the County Council's Minerals and Waste Plan is as up to date as possible, and it was therefore felt that it was appropriate to delay the commencement of the update of the plan until there was greater clarity, particularly around the legislation around waste, but also the passage of the Environment Act. And therefore, the report today seeks members' recommendation to the County Council, because it's actually a decision for the County Council to adopt the development plan scheme. But this is only a programme for a process. It's not about the content of the revised plan, and that would be coming separately to the Cabinet before the commencement of a public consultation, which is currently planned to take place in the autumn and winter of this year. Chairman, I wasn't going to add anything more other than just perhaps because of a number of new members of Cabinet, to remind members that this plan's prepared jointly with the City Councils in Southampton and Portsmouth and with our colleagues in South Downs and New Forest National Park authorities, in so much as the parts of the two national park areas are covered by the policies in the plan. So it's a joint undertaking by all of the authorities working together, albeit that Hampshire County Council takes the lead on the technical and professional work to support that, but all of the authorities contribute financially to the work that's necessary to produce the plan, and it is taken forward by each authority through its own decision-making processes. Thank you very much, Chair.
Stuart, thank you very much, and noted the comment you make at the end about the partnership working with and all that agreement. Councillor Heron, Edward.
Chairman, thank you. I just want to reiterate in here that this is not a discussion going on about the plan. This is a discussion about how we refresh the plan, and I think it is important now to highlight in here that in that process of refreshing this plan, there are opportunities for the public interested parties to engage in that. There are actually three opportunities. One is the call for sites, the opportunity for those who feel that they have an appropriate location across the partners. Then there is the opportunity for a formal public consultation on the issues, the options, the draft thinking of that plan, which, as Stuart has said, hopefully will run through towards the end of this year. And then finally, the key bit is, once we have that plan that we're looking to bring forward, there is another opportunity for the public to comment on that in detail and to express what they think we've got right, what they might think we've got wrong. And then finally, just people appreciate, it then goes to an independent appointed government inspector who will look at our thinking behind this. And I think this is a key one here to put out. This is not us writing a plan however we want. It has to be in conformity with national policy, and that is the gateway, that inspection where the inspector will look at it and go, you have made a decision that is acceptable in the form of national policy. So this is, to people watching, this is the start of a refresh. There are many opportunities for people to put their views and make their views known to us. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ed. That was very well explained, and thank you very much for that. Councillor Warwick, do you indicate you want to make a brief comment?
No, only I suppose we're right to delay slightly because the most important act, the Environment Act, will have a huge impact on the content of this plan. So that's right. But on the other hand, we need a plan that's up to date. So any appeal hearing, if anyone sat through one, the importance of the plan is really clear. So important. So thank you, Stuart. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Warwick. Anybody else have any further points to make? If not, Stuart, thank you very much for presenting the paper, and also I think noting all the points that Councillor Edward Heron made as well, and the process that we have to go through. So thank you very much. just get to the recommendations. So we're all in agreement with the recommendations on that paper. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so we go on to agenda item 9, executive functions. And I think, David Kelly, you're presenting the paper, yeah? Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. It'll be a very short presentation. Simply, it's for the Cabinet to note the executive appointments that you have made and to suggest that those are reported on to the County Council at the meeting in July, and also then to recommend to the full Council that they approve some variations to the Select Committee functions, in particular in relation to the movement of economic development with your portfolio.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just make a few comments clearly on some of the changes have made purely because of new Cabinet members as well. I would do if I can find my page. Okay, so I think one important one from my point of view as leader, having previously been Economy, Transport and Environment, and the comments that I made at the first council meeting, the importance that we're putting on the economy, and I have kept the economy part of that portfolio in now what is now in the leader's portfolio. So we are looking at the team through Stuart Jarvis in terms of how we strengthen that economic team, and looking at an economic strategy which will be coming out fairly soon, we hope, and how that works in with all the other work that we do right across the authority. So it is the importance of that economic development, if you like, and a really strong, healthy economy, which I suppose you could say that actually pays for everything that we do. So we need to very much support that as an authority. Just going down in terms of the list, in terms of Councillor Chad as the Deputy Leader, and the work that's now in your programme in terms of the supporting families.
Yes, thank you. That's very welcome to come under the Children's Services remit, and thank you for the Supporting Families programme to be put in my portfolio.
Okay, I think that was in lots of discussions with officers as well about how that lined up more with in terms of the Cabinet, and also with the officers' teams and the department as well. So that was welcome. I think one other adjustment was in terms of Councillor Foster, in terms of the emergency planning. If you want to make any comment on that, there again, that's an alignment with the department. So you might know a brief comment.
Thank you, Leader. It's much appreciated. I'm already up to speed on this, having been briefed by the officers in CCBS who I work with extensively. Looking forward to supporting the council on this, alongside health and safety also. It's an exciting area, and I think the teams involved have done some remarkable work over the last couple of years.
Thank you very much for that. So I also would just mention the 2 new Cabinet members. So we have Nick Adams-King, who is, I'm very relieved to say, is now looking after potholes and gullies for me. And you're welcome.
Not as relieved as I am.
Very good. Thank you very much. And also to new Cabinet member, Councillor Kirsty North. And Kirsty might make a brief comment, because very, very pleased and excited actually in terms of a new role that's been added into that, into inclusion and diversity. Maybe just like to make a brief comment on that and what your role is there, Kirsty. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rob. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to developing the role, working alongside Jack Borton. I'll be chairing my first Employment in Hampshire committee next month, and Policy and Resource are considering the Serving Hampshire year-end performance report this week. So it is all go at the moment, but I'm very much looking forward to having a chance to meet the 4 staff network chairs and vice chairs as soon as I can, and seeing the great work that they do. I hear they perform a really supportive role for members of staff across all departments of the council. So looking at how we can make further developments in that area will be really exciting.
That's great, Kirsty. Thanks very much. And very clearly, you're all already up and running and absolutely on the job already. So very pleased to hear, and thank you very much. I have no further comments on the paper. So presumably, we're all happy to accept the recommendations as set out. All I would just like to say is a huge thank you to the whole team. And yes, this is my first Cabinet meeting as well, which I think has been fairly brief for looking at the clock. But just on that note, I just would like to say that clearly with all the papers we look at, we need to remember and consider the amount of detailed work that goes into producing all these papers. and a lot of them go through scrutiny as well. So we have been fairly brief this morning, but I think we should acknowledge, and Chief Executive, to your team as well, and all the officers involved, acknowledging that work that goes into that, producing all those, and indeed from members as well and their input, and a slightly, probably, I think we'd agree, a new way of working that we're looking at doing now. So thank you to you and the whole team as well. So I have nothing further to add, unless anybody else has, so we will bring my first Cabinet meeting to a close. So thank you all very much, and we can stop filming now. Thank you very much.